Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1 and 2, saying that finances is not a set forgiveness. Hey there, welcome to the Radical Godly Stewardship podcast, where we don't just manage money, we master it. Yes, in the kingdom. I am your host, Dr. Lexi Johnson, and today's episode is a necessary one. It is one that is part 2 from last week. So if you did not, for some reason, see last week's episode, make sure you catch it. You don't necessarily have to view that one before you view this one, but I definitely recommend that you go back and catch it. Okay. And the best place to do that is on our YouTube channel, Money Mastery for Her 54. Money Mastery for Her, the number 4, Her 54. All right. The big, beautiful bill passed very recently. And it's one that's sparking fear, celebration, confusion, chaos, depending on who you talk to, right? And depending on who you ask. And here at Radical Godly Stewardship, we don't follow the trends, right? We follow truth. And so today we're going to break down what this bill actually means and how we as kingdom citizens should respond, because there is a way that we should respond, and it should not look like how the world responds, right? And I also want to talk about why it is a blessing at this moment for those who know how to discern Babylon's systems. That's right. For those who know how to discern Babylon's system. Now, in the Bible, Babylon is a term that is used to represent kingdoms outside of the kingdom of Yah. In other words, the world. Okay. So when we talk about the world versus the kingdom, it can sometimes also be called Babylon versus the kingdom. Okay. So I'll be using that term Babylon a lot. And also why? Why else am I using that term? Well, Babylon was known for its wealth. Okay. Babylon was known for its wealth and its very, worldly strategies in creating that wealth. Okay. So that's why also I'm referring to it as Babylon. Now I have my notes down below in front of me here. So if you see me looking down quite often, it's because I have my notes down here and I want to make sure that I, say things correctly and that I cover what I intend to cover as it relates to this bill. It's the same thing that I did last week. Normally, my notes are in front of me, and so I'm very, very rarely even using them because, it's my content. I put it together. But when I'm talking about this bill, right, I am talking about other people's stuff. So let's get into it. All right. So let us review what this bill, this is part 2 from last week. So let's review some of the things that this bill entails. A couple of these things I went over last week, but I said that I would go a little bit deeper, not that much, because we're not here really to decipher the thing. We're here to talk about as kingdom citizens, how we move forward, right? So as I get ready to do this, do me a favor, let me know who you are, where you're watching from. And also, if you don't mind, share this out, okay? Share the broadcast out. All right, so last week we talked about there were some personal income tax changes, right? And so most households, probably between 50,000 and 150,000, you may be seeing some temporary increases in your take-home pay through some adjustments that have been made to deductions and credits, right? Because the tax things that were voted as a part of this bill are retroactive to January. Okay. So you may have seen some increases, right? And if you didn't know what that was, that's why. So they have made adjustments to some deductions, to credits, And so that's why you're seeing that. But I want you to be clear that these tax breaks aren't permanent. Okay. When they voted some of these things in, some of these things will last for a certain period of time and go away. Some of these things will phase out. We'll talk about what that means in a minute. And many of us may not notice any of these things until refund season. So why aren't the tax breaks permanent, right? When they come in and they vote on anything, but as we're talking about these uh, tax breaks and deductions and credits and all of these things, why aren't a lot of these things permanent, right? Well, most of the tax breaks in this particular bill, this big, beautiful bill, are temporary by design. Okay. This is a budgeting tactic, and the budgeting tactic is called sunsetting. It's called sunsetting. So Congress will use this so that one, they could appear fiscally responsible, right? By ending the benefits after a few years, they can lower that particular bill's long-term price tag, right? So it appears that they are fiscally responsible. They also avoid exceeding deficit caps. Okay. So this is a fast track legislative process. Okay. And then finally, it can create future leverage. What does that mean? The temporary perks, right, that we are experiencing right now is actually putting pressure on future lawmakers to extend them and to revise them. Okay. So, in other words, they're kicking the can down the road. All right. It looks like, they have solved some things right now, or, they've taken care of some things, but actually they just have kicked the can down the road. Okay. They are hedging their bets politically and financially. So, this creates uncertainty for who? For you, for me, for our families, and for our businesses trying to plan long term, because these things are temporary. They're not permanent, right? So there are some things that, we can enjoy, but it's not going to be here down the road. Or now when the next administration comes in, or the repeat of the administration, or whatever, now we have to wait and see if they're going to vote them again, right? So, that's that. Good, bad, indifferent. I'll let you be the judge on that. The next thing that we had talked about, one of the other things we talked about last week, was corporate tax implications. So big businesses got more loopholes, small businesses got crumbs. If you are not incorporated, you're probably funding the perks of those who are. So what do we need to do? We need to learn Babylon's game so that we can exit it wisely, right? So what does all that mean when it comes to the corporate tax implications? What do these caps and phase outs and all of this mean? Let me go back to that. So caps and phase outs are income-based limits that reduce and eliminate benefits above a certain income level, right? So the common tactics are, you got the phase outs, which you may get a credit, but it reduces gradually after a specific income threshold. Okay. The earned income credit, and so many other different credits that you may see. As your income increases, those credits, they decrease and then eventually go away. And then you have what are called hard caps, where there's no credit or deduction if your income exceeds a certain amount. Okay, so it doesn't phase out, it just doesn't exist for you, period. All right. So, what do these do? Well, for them, it helps manage the cost of the bill. It creates what we call these cliff effects, where making a little more income drastically reduces benefits. Okay. We've seen this with welfare. I think they've got different terminology for that or whatever right now, but we've seen that, right? So the more income you make, your benefits can reduce drastically and then eventually just drop off. That's kind of a phase out thing. And then you've got, like I said, the hard caps where you just don't qualify for that. And this often hurts those who are in the middle class, especially dual income families, because usually they are making just enough, just too much, right, to be able to qualify for the help, but not enough, right, so that they're out of, fire, if you will, out of trouble, if you will. So they tend to, suffer the most. Okay. Now back to smaller businesses funding the larger businesses perks. While the bill offers some small perks, much of the funding for large scale credits, like expanded earned income and all of that, where does that come from? Well, it comes from increased IRS enforcement. It comes from rising compliance costs. It comes from indirect costs through minimum wage increases, mandatory paid leave, overtime expansions. All of these things impact smaller businesses much more, right? So because the government has to find ways to pay for the earned income credit, to pay for things like the baby bonus and all that, it's the small business owners that are likely paying for these types of things. Why? Because the larger corporations, what they tend to do is they tend to pass the cost on to the consumers, or they can automate and offshore it, right? But the smaller businesses, they either have to eat the difference or they have to downsize. Okay, so not so good for small business, right? And things like this can be disturbing, but we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Now, one of the other things that I talked about last week was the baby bonus, right? And the baby bonus is a one-time $2,000 baby bonus per child. Okay, so if you have a baby 2025 and beyond, there is this bonus that you get. It is an investment. Okay. However, and they say goes in tax deferred, right? So we know if it goes in tax deferred, then that means it's going to be taxed when it's pulled out. All right. And it is tied to specific income thresholds. Okay. So it is not in reality the blessing that you think. It really is just a pacifier. Okay. So the baby bonus is designed like a child trust account or a child investment. Like I said, it's going to grow tax deferred, but the withdrawals can be taxed when the child is of age. So when a child becomes 18, above, or whatever, they take that money out, they're going to be taxed, especially if they don't use it for educational purposes. And if the account begins to generate income, what it will trigger is this kiddie tax. Okay. And the kiddie tax is that it's taxing at the parent's rate if it is left unmonitored. All right. So those of you who are having babies in 2025 and beyond, this baby bonus thing may sound great, but you need to pay close attention to it so that you're not caught up in the various tax implications that I've mentioned. Okay. So blessing now, but it's going to come with some Babylon strings later. Okay. The last thing that I want to cover that I talked about last week and share just a little bit more about it, then we're going to talk about what we as kingdom citizens need to be doing, thinking and doing, is the overtime and tips. So last week I reported that over time, to a certain threshold, and tips when you would now not have to report them as income. More reporting is being required, though, for tipped workers and contractors. And so this is about visibility and control. Babylon always finds a way to track your hustle. So just because it seems now that you won't be taxed on these things, they are still going to track it. Okay. So you're going to have to learn how not to just make your money. Okay. If you're a person who, loves to get that overtime income, you're a person who works for tips, you love doing that. You're going to have to learn not just how to make the money, but you're going to have to learn how to shelter your money legally and kingdomly. Okay. And so maybe we will do an episode on that in the future if, we have enough demand for it. I'm not sure that I have enough people who listen to me who are in that situation. But if we do, that it could be an episode later on in the future. All right. Now, let's talk about fear, false narratives, and financial fragility. Okay. Again, like I said last week, too many people are panicking. Too many people are panicking. We are acting like this bill is the mark of the beast. Okay. This bill is not the mark of the beast. This bill is not the end. Certainly, we have people out there who are on the other end too and saying, well, this is what people get for depending on the government. And so let's get this straight. 3 things that I want to share with you. 1, government assistance is not demonic. Okay. So for those people out there who, think that people on government assistance are less than, can't be godly, whatever the case may be, that is not the truth. Government assistance is not demonic. Number 2, poverty is not always the result of laziness. There are some very hardworking people out there who are not making ends meet. And it isn't because they're lazy. All right. It is because Babylon, right? We have not learned the game. And then 3rd, being wealthy doesn't make you wise. Okay. So just because you have a lot of money doesn't necessarily make you wiser than someone who does not. Okay. In the kingdom, what makes you wise is the word of God, and not just reading it, but doing it. Okay. So this bill isn't a curse. It's a mirror. That's what I want to say. It is not a curse. It is a mirror. It is showing us who has faith and who has fragile finances. Now, a mirror has no power to sentence you to heaven or hell, does it? A mirror has no power to sentence you to jail. It doesn't do any of that, right? All it can do is point out either what is in place or what is out of place. When you get in the mirror every morning, like I'm looking right now, because I can't see you, what I see is a reflection of me. And I'm looking and I got some strands of hair that are out of place, right? But that's all that this reflection can tell me. It can't condemn me for it, right? Or praise me for it, right? It just shows me where I am. And that's what this bill is doing that has just passed. It is showing all of us where we are in our faith and where we are in our finances. All right. So here's what I want us to understand as kingdom citizens. We cannot walk in dominion and depend solely on systems that weren't built with the kingdom of Yah in mind. This is what we need to understand. These systems, these government systems never have been built with the kingdom in mind. Yes, I know that, we have documents in our nation that says, under God and this, and I know what the documents say. Okay. But the behavior doesn't align. It's one thing to say something, right? It's another thing when you actually see the behavior and the actual fruit from the behavior, right? So these systems are not made for us. So please get that through your brain, okay? These systems are not made for us, and they never will be. They never will be. All right? So even though they're not made for us, but even though they're not made for us, or I should say, and even though they're not made for us, we still can't be dismissive of those who are being affected by these systems, right? And we are still affected by these systems, okay? But being affected and being consumed by them is two different things. We can be affected, but we need not be consumed by it. We need not be full of fear of it. We need not be, you know, overwhelmingly discouraged and all of that by it, because they were never made for us. It is not for us. All right. Proverbs 14:31 says that whoever oppresses the poor shows contempt for their maker, but whoever is kind to the needy honors God. So we don't honor God by mocking the needy. Okay. If we are kingdom citizens, that's not what we do. We honor him by equipping them. If the government is not going to do it, we must do it. We should have been doing it all along, because that is the way God's economy works. Okay. From the Old Testament until today, we as kingdom citizens have been called to make sure that we look out for the poor. And what we have done is we have shirked our responsibility, and we have said, let the government do that. That's what we've done. We've all become dependent on the government to do that. All right. So we cannot continue to do that. The other thing that I love about this verse is that God means what he says. Whoever oppresses the poor shows contempt for their maker. And so the people who are sitting there authoring these bills, if they are oppressing the poor, they have to meet their maker. They have to meet their maker. Okay. And when I say meet their maker, I don't always mean that they're not going to be affected until they die. No, we can meet God, and we can be in his presence at any time. Okay. So we can't worry about that. All right. We can't worry about those things. We let God be God. We let the government do its thing, and we do our thing. All right. Now, we're going to have a word from one of our sponsors. And then when I come back, we're going to talk about our response, right? Discernment over drama. Okay. That's where I'm at, because I'm not a person who likes drama. And I know there's a lot of people out there who talk about they don't like drama, but some of those people who say they don't like drama, they like drama because they all up in it. I don't like drama. Okay. I'm like, what are we going to do? What's the response? What are we going to do? So that's what we're going to talk about after we hear from our sponsor.
My body is my crown. I was made to shine. Boundaries matter, and this body is mine. I'm God's creation, a girl with a plan, growing into purpose. Understand, my body is king, yeah, strong and smart, protecting my crown and guarding my heart. I'm made to lead, guide, and stand tall. I listen to God, I answer the call. My body is my crown, I was made to shine. Boundaries matter, and this body is mine. I'm God's creation, a girl with a plan, growing into purpose. Understand. Crown on, stand strong. We know right from wrong. Crown on, stand strong. We know right from wrong.
Man, isn't that cool? My Body is My Crown by Crown and Crayon. These are a series of books for young girls and young boys. I actually think they have for like teens as well. Um, I need to put the link in the comments later on after this, but please go out and support, okay? If you have young children, you have grandchildren, great grandchildren, nieces, nephews, everybody needs these books. Why? Because it is teaching children how to be good stewards over their bodies, over their relationships, over everything, right? And so these books, they're a series for there's Zuri for the girls and there's Zion for the guys, and it's absolutely amazing. So I will make sure to put the links in the comments after we get done here. Okay, My Body is My Crown by Crown and Crayon. Oh, and they're coming out with an animated series too. Oh my goodness. Yes, they'll be coming out with an animated series. It'll hit YouTube soon. Best believe I'll be talking about it when it does. All right. Let us continue now. Let's talk about our response as kingdom citizens to this bill. Discernment over drama is what I said, right? The news wants you caught up in all the emotion and all of that, and they want you to just be dramatic, okay? Bring on all the drama. So, what do we do in response to this bill? Well, I want to share with you a blueprint today. So, number one, audit your alignment. Audit your alignment. What do I mean? Ask yourself, are you depending on Babylon or are you partnering with Yah to provide and multiply? Okay. What systems are you loyal to? Are you loyal to Babylon systems, the world systems, or are you loyal to the kingdom of Yah in his systems? Okay. If you are loyal to the kingdom of Yah, then you need to get into his word and understand how God's economy works. That's what needs to be done. Okay. And check this out. Tonight at 7 p.m., we have a 3-day challenge that you can participate in. Yes, that's right. It doesn't cost you anything. It is called Breaking the Cycle 3 Days to Financial Obedience. And this will definitely help you get aligned, right, with God's economy versus the world systems. It will definitely help you to shift your mind, okay, so that you're not focused on the drama of the big, beautiful bill, but instead you are focused on the kingdom and God's economy. Because as kingdom citizens, that's where we need to be. So it's a 3-day challenge. Tonight it starts 7 p.m. Tomorrow 7 p.m. Saturday 7 p.m. And where can you join this challenge? You can go to my Facebook group, Money Mastery for Her. Okay, Money Mastery for Her. Put in a search, or in the show notes or in the description, you'll find the link to the Facebook group so that you can join and you can be part of the 3-day challenge. Okay, come ready, because like I said, that's what's going to happen. We're going to break the cycle, right? And we're going to get on the path to financial obedience. So anyway, audit your alignment. And I've just given you an opportunity for you to do that by joining us starting tonight. Okay. So audit your alignment. Number 2, protect your increase. Protect your increase. What do I mean by that? If you're receiving more as a result of this bill, if you're receiving more, because that is certainly possible right now, if you're receiving more from the tax breaks, or you're going to be one of those who benefits from the child bonuses, don't consume it. Okay. We are a people who, the minute we make more, we spend more. And so therefore we never actually see that increase. We never see it. Okay. So if you're receiving more in this period of time, what you need to do is not consume it, but you need to convert it. You need to invest. You need to save. You need to give. Okay. Pad your emergency savings. Pad your investments. Let your blessing become a building block. Okay. Don't throw it away. Don't throw it away. Whatever that increase is, from a few dollars to a lot of dollars because of those adjustments that may have been made over the last week or two, don't throw it away. All right. And then the third thing that you can do to make sure that you are kingdom aligned and not Babylon focused is to get in the community. Okay. Get in community, I should say. Don't do this alone. Okay. I have many ways in which you can join our community in doing so. So I already mentioned the Money Mastery for Her Facebook group. You can join us there, but you can also join us inside of our Patreon as well. And that link is in the description as well. And in the Patreon, we're talking about what's really going on and how to prepare. Okay. There is a free level, but there's also a paid level. And on the paid level, they are getting things dropped in there daily, practical things that they can do, that they can use. We're talking about money news, right? That is right now, today, current event things, and how they can navigate these things. All right. Okay. Now, before we get out of here, we've got one more word from a sponsor. So we will do that, and then we will be right back with our closing thoughts. Calling all book clubs. It is time for a conversation that goes deeper than fiction. Stop Begging God for Money is the book your group didn't know it needed. Whether you're reading for growth, healing, or financial strategy, this kingdom-centered guide brings bold truth, step-by-step action, and spirit-led revelation. Discounts are available for bulk book club orders. Email support@mm4h.life to get your club started today. Let's turn your book club into a financial breakthrough circle. Hey, all right. So Stop Begging God for Money. So excited about that book. It is definitely something, a message that God has given me, because let me tell you something, I ain't that smart. I am not that smart, but God is, right? And that book is making waves. It is having impact. It is changing people's lives. And I want it to change yours too. If you want to buy it as an individual, you can get it on Amazon or anywhere books are sold online. You can also, if you want a signed copy, you can get it from my website, authorlexijohnson.com. And you can get a signed, personalized copy there. Okay. But if you know of any book clubs, you participate in a book club, I'm telling you, this is a book that you will want to do together. Okay. It is a how-to book, right? A kingdom guide, so you can learn how to steward finances God's way. All right. Let's get to my closing thoughts for today. All right. Today's takeaway is this: Babylon's bills cannot bankrupt kingdom promises. I'm going to say that again. Babylon's bills, meaning this big, beautiful bill and whatever other bills they're going to come out with and whatever bills they've come out with before, none of those bills can bankrupt kingdom promises. None of those bills can bankrupt the kingdom of God, period. Okay. But we must get financially free enough so that we don't have to keep opting into the fear. Okay. And even if you're in a place right now where things are really tough and you were dependent on those government programs and those cuts have been made and it is, you're feeling it, I still don't want you to opt into the fear. God doesn't want you to opt into the fear. Okay. God wants you to opt out of that fear because he hasn't given you, right, a spirit of fear, but of sound mind, right, of power and of love. And his word has everything that you need. You don't need the government to bail you out. See, that is the problem that the Israelites had way back in the day when they demanded to have an earthly king. And their first king was Saul, and we know how that went. and how it's been going ever since. Okay. So we don't need to look to an earthly God. We have everything we need in the Almighty Yah. Ecclesiastes 7:12 says, wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. I'll read that again. It says, wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. All right. So today I'm telling you, get wisdom, get stewardship, get in position. All right. This week, I want you to review your alignment. Ask, where are you trusting Babylon to be your source instead of the Almighty Yah? And then I want you to take one bold step toward kingdom partnership. That could be giving, that could be investing, that could be cutting waste. It could be praying differently, right? Not praying from a begging position, but praying from a position that you're partnering with God in your finances. And if you need help praying the right way, I want you to grab my new book, Stop Begging God for Money. Okay. I told you where you could find the book anywhere online where books are sold. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it on my website, authorlexijohnson.com. And I also want to remind you that another great place to start is our 3-day challenge that is happening tonight in the Money Mastery for Her, that's the number 4, Facebook group. The link is in the description. Join the group and be with us. It's a 3-day challenge tonight, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. All right. So until next time, steward well. Okay. Go produce, go multiply, go dominate. Don't let Babylon bully you and your finances. All right. Until next time, everybody. God bless.